I love to see the towns passing by and to ride these rails neath God's blue sky. Let me travel this land from the mountains to the sea, 'cause that's the life I believe He meant for me. And when I'm gone and at my grave you stand, say God called home your rambling man.
Welcome to Ramble Man Podcast episode number 54. This one is with David Galey and we talk woodworking. If you'd like to know more about David, you can find him online at woodtonesdesign.com. It's woodtonesdesign.com. Our sponsor this week is Feral Giant. Feral Giant is a graphic design, illustration, and social media company based here in Knoxville, Tennessee. Although they do work both near and far, they also offer services like photography, videography, podcasting, web design, SEO, digital marketing. Hell, they'll babysit your kids if it gets them money. You can find them online at feralgiant.com or any of the social at /feralgiant. Without much further ado, here's the episode.
One place to start is the shop.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just like, yeah,
Well,
we
how
could
you
talk.
got into it, like.
Yeah. And it kind of all gets back to it. I'm jumping ahead. It all kind of gets back to the shop. So I'll probably keep dwelling on that. So
Here's how we'll start. All right. So what are your thoughts on chalk paint?
chalk paint.
I can get you 10 minutes on just chalk.
I used to work with this asshole.
Oh my god. Oh my god. Yeah, I still tell people that story.
I don't even remember which story you're talking about.
Because when all of a sudden when Pinterest became a big thing and people were using chalk paint on everything, you're like, that damn stuff. I couldn't get rid of that stuff years ago, and now
I might have some over there. I don't know.
I have a friend.
I think I finally threw it out.
A different Sean, a female Sean, that she would probably gladly take all of that.
That's
from
funny.
me.
No, okay. I remember that story now. Yes, that's true.
She has got a pool in her backyard. She built her entire fence around that pool with old doors.
Oh, wow.
Like she is I see something on Pinterest, I'll just build it. Like her house is insane. It's like, good God, like you really are into building all this stuff, which, yeah, that ain't me. I'll build as little as possible. I did see a hack the other day on how to hang pictures where you put the nail in, you figure out where you need to put it, you put the nail in, you put a fork on top of that nail, and then you hang it. Wait, this doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it does.
And
The line will follow the fork down, and then you lift the fork out. Yeah,
and then you lift the fork out. That kind of feels like the fork in the Oreo trick, where you put the fork through the cream, dip it, and then eat the Oreo.
Oh, okay.
I was like, oh my God, then your fingers
okay.
don't get milk all.
Go figure. I would know the picture frame trick, and you would know the Oreo trick.
And I've known the Oreo trick for like 15 years. Because when it happened, I was like, this is genius. How did I not know this? Yeah. Yeah, I saw that. That's one of those stupid Facebook videos where it's like, here's a hack. Here's a life hack. Use a fork when hanging a picture. It's like, God, that's too smart. Like, why would I ever think of that? No. I guess that is the plastic.
Yeah,
okay.
It must be. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, woodworking, how did you first get into it? I already know, but I figure.
Yeah.
I assume your dad.
Well, yes. So,
although, did Farragut have vocational? No.
Not that. They didn't have that.
Okay.
They didn't have a woodworking class. Or, You're live, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay. So,
I thought they had a print shop. But that may have been
I don't
later.
remember.
Yeah.
If they had a vocational thing, I didn't take anything there. So yeah, the original woodworking was came from my dad who didn't have any hobbies except woodworking all his life. And then when I was about 12 or so, he decided he wanted to get into the picture frame business.
Mm-hmm.
And so we set up a picture frame business in the garage, and then it turned into, the garage got finished out into a nice display room. And we did picture frames, like lots and lots of picture frames. And that's probably where I got my first hands on playing with small tools and stuff like that, and cutting tools. And but yeah, my dad was obviously the big influence, and I kind of learned just from watching him. It wasn't when you're a little kid, he's not like telling you, we didn't have these, okay, now we're gonna do a whatever.
Yeah.
We're not gonna do this this is what we're building, and this is how we're gonna set it up. He didn't really talk me through that. And but it was more, here, catch this board as it comes off the end of the table saw, and so I would just watch him do a lot of this stuff, and that's where I picked up a lot of it.
That's how my grandfather was with plumbing. He would just be under there. He'd be like, all right, hold the line. Okay, wait, now hand me this. Okay, now this is going to go here. Every once in a while, he'd say, okay, we're going to do that. It was almost like he was thinking about it in his brain and saying it out loud to make it. He was like, nope, this is the right decision.
Yeah. So it was real similar. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was where I just kind of picked up more than I thought I did, I guess. Because years later, when I started kind of getting into it myself, I was just like, oh, I already kind of I would talk to other woodworkers.
Yeah.
I didn't think I knew much about woodworking because I had never been trained or anything. And I would talk to other woodworkers, and they would this or that, and I'd go, well, have you ever tried this? And this is how we always did it. And I was like, maybe I know more about this than I thought. So there was that moment. Then anyway,
that's what. Okay, and did you always keep up with it over the years, or did you?
It's like any hobby.
Because I know the guitar comes into play.
Yeah,
at one point.
Yep. The woodworking is kind of comes and goes. I guess when I started getting serious, I say serious. Serious means when you start spending money to buy equipment. That's when
that needs to be on a T-shirt or something. It gets serious when you start spending money on equipment.
Yeah. Like a friend of mine used to tell me, this is when shit gets real, right?
Yeah, this is when shit gets real. When the rubber hits the road. Yeah.
So, I started kind of getting into it at our last house. And we had a unfinished basement downstairs. So it was an old house. So whenever there wasn't a lot of insulation in the floor. So, old houses just kind of have like boards lapped over them. Yeah. So point is, when there's a lot of sawdust downstairs, it makes its way upstairs. So yeah, the wife wasn't too happy about that, but
that explains the insane ventilation system in here, which we'll get to later.
Yeah. That's why we have 2 dust collectors. Yeah, that's where that was born. I had a really insane one at that house, but anyway, everything was on the dust collector there. But yeah, I started getting into it. Then I started making display cases. Well, let me back up. There was a guy I used to play guitar with. We played around a lot. Right. I told you about that. And then he moved to Detroit. He got a job up there, moved up there. And almost instantly, like the first winter, we realized how humidity or lack of humidity affects instruments. Right. And the face of his acoustic split. And that's when we were like, that's when we started learning about, you're supposed to humidify these things. So I had this idea that it's just like, I could make a display case that's sealed, And then it just kept growing.
Right.
You know, first it's just a box that's sealed. Well, now let's make it a display case that hangs on the wall. And then I had a little humidifier inside of it, and they were I thought they were pretty nice. Then it turns into, it has UV glass on the front, and it was, so I started selling them. I took out an ad in the back of some acoustic magazine. And it was like a switch. As soon as I took that ad out, I started getting calls. People wanted these things. And you would start, collectors and stuff like that. So about that time, lucky for me, Taylor came out with the Liberty Tree guitar.
Okay.
I don't know if you've ever heard of the Liberty Tree guitar. So I got to tell some bad history here, or it's not bad history. It's my history is my bad memory recalls it. There were these, back in the Revolutionary days, they had these trees, meeting trees they called them, and that's where the people would go, get on their soapboxes and da-da-da-da-da. And so you knew if you wanted to go hear, it was politics of the early day. When you wanted to hear somebody speak, you go to the meeting tree, the Liberty, or the oak tree down on whatever. So blah, blah, blah. So, it was a long time ago. So they eventually all died out except for one. Well, then it finally died. And that was like that must have been the late 80s, or this was probably early 90s when all this took place. Late 80s, early 90s, somewhere around in there. The Liberty Tree dies. And they're like, well, shit, this is a piece of history. What do we do with this? Yeah. And the guy that owned Taylor Guitars, Bob Taylor, I think it is. Anyway, owned Taylor Guitars, says, hey, I'll take that tree off of you. So he buys it and brings it back and makes these Liberty Tree guitars. Wow. And if you ever seen one, you should Google it. And they're Taylor guitars. They're real nice, playable guitars, but they just have all this inlay all down the neck and into the body of the guitar. Were just inlays of there's nice inlays. And so obviously, nobody bought them to play them. Nobody goes and plays them at concerts or anything. They're collectors are buying them. So that was about the time I didn't know this till after I started making display cases. Yeah. I started getting lots of calls about making display cases for Liberty Tree guitars. Hey, I just got this guitar. And the very first case I made was for somebody, for very first order. Yeah. One of the executive guys at Taylor Guitars had gotten hold of one of these and sent it to his parents. Okay. And his parents didn't play guitar or anything, but they knew it was valuable and they wanted to display it. So somehow they got my name. Oh my God. And can you make a case for this? And I'm like, well, sure I can. Well, I guess word got back to Taylor Guitars that, hey, there's this guy in, middle of nowhere, East Tennessee that made this case for my parents. And
he's in, am I pronouncing this right? Vestal?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, if they only knew what the shop looked like at that time. It was pretty stark. Yeah. But I'll tell you some more about that in a minute.
Oh my God. So it got back to
Taylor, and this is just, I was never affiliated with Taylor or anything, but I think, I got an awful lot of calls for that particular guitar. Yeah. So I have to suspect somebody in there going, hey, can I get a case for this thing? And they're like, well, call this guy. Yeah. I don't know. I never talked to Taylor Guitars, but anyway, so I did a bunch of those. Funny. Yeah, it was. I did several of those. And then sometime shortly after that, shortly, like a few years after that, remember when Eric Clapton sold off all his guitars? Yeah. He sold off a whole bunch of guitars for charity. Yeah, there's a whole bunch of them with my cases on them.
Really?
Yep, because people were calling up going, hey, I just kept getting, email or whatever after another. Hey, I just picked up this such and such guitar at this.
Oh my God.
And so I made a whole bunch of those, and I would put little, tell me all about it, and I would put a little plaque on it.
Yeah.
That's how I would know what kind of guitar it was.
Yeah.
And, it's just like the such and such Gibson from Eric Clapton from blah, blah, blah. And I was like, you're kidding me. So
it's like, I'm going to need to test drive that guitar.
yeah,
before
exactly.
I send it to you.
The downside is for me, well,
Yeah.
I guess it was as much as there was a downside on that. I obviously didn't have the guitar to take a picture of the case.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I'm like, hey, send that to me so I can take a picture and put it on my webpage. Well, so I would always tell everybody, hey, take a picture. Well, somehow that always got forgotten.
Yeah.
I got a few back, but, probably 15, 20% of the
Yeah.
people would send a picture back. But I'm just like, oh, so I never got to see
Yeah.
a whole bunch of these. But,
Do you know the most famous person you made one for?
well, Eric Clapton would probably have to be up there. Then
Really? He actually.
Oh, no. Famous person. No.
Yeah, the actual order.
No.
It was all. It's
It was
all
all-
tech money or
Yeah,
something.
yeah, exactly. Sorry. No, I didn't make one for
Okay.
Eric Clapton. No, I misunderstood you there.
Yeah.
No, I don't know I don't remember.
I wonder if there's anybody that I might know that's like, oh my God, like
Yeah.
this person is the person who invented Google. Like,
Yeah.
You're like, oh, that guy?
Yeah. I don't know who
He
he
was
is.
a
Yeah.
dumbass.
Yeah. He was hard to deal with. There was one lady, this was a bizarre one and she was up in Chicago, I think. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
She had somebody come through the feng shui, set up the feng shui in her office was wrong. And she played ukuleles.
Okay.
And she wanted a display case that she could put her ukuleles in.
Okay.
And I'm thinking, little display cases
Yeah.
that she puts them on. No, she wants to put them all in one. And I'm like, okay, structurally that becomes
Yeah.
a real problem because the way they were made is it just has this big door hanging off a couple of hinges. And
Yeah.
I'm like, this is getting big. But
Yeah.
what made me think of that is she was real hard to deal with. I remember that.
How many
But-
ukuleles? Did
well,
you-
there was just like 4 in the case,
Still, that's.
but it wasn't,
These are not lightweight cases.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, they were made to hang on the wall.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought I had an old. They had a big bar system.
Oh, okay.
You put this bar. A V thing. I thought I had one around
Oh,
here. Is
okay.
what I was looking for. but
I've
I don't-
seen it in the basement. I think you still
Yeah.
got a
Yeah,
case
yeah,
or
yeah,
two
yeah.
in the basement. I've
Yeah.
seen. Wow.
But she was real hard to deal with. I just remember that. But she was asking me to defy physics. She needed to do this, and I'm like, I can't do that. But anyway, we
So
finally got something.
I was going to say, did you have to was it a little bit of trial and error with? I'm guessing it was Jim who was up in Detroit. Was it Jim who's up in Detroit?
Jim was in Detroit. Yeah,
I mean, did you have to kind of
Oh,
did you figure it out on the? Well, you're an engineer, so did you figure it out on the front end, or did you have to kind of play around?
we did. There were several iterations. In fact, the ones you saw in my basement are that's Rev 1 and Rev 2, and there were some designs. I mean, when you first come up with the idea and how you think this thing's going to go together, and sometimes you get in the shop and you're like, okay, I thought that was going to be easy to do, but that's just a huge pain in the ass. I can't do it that way. I gotta, now it's a production change.
Yeah.
I got to figure out how to change that. So, back to the shop at Vestal.
Bum, 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 bum.
Yeah, exactly. So it's in an old house that was built in early 20s. I think it was built in
Lord.
1921 or something like that. It's a cool house. Had a lot of character. We really liked that house, except it was kind of on a busy corner in the hood.
Yeah.
But So the shop was downstairs. So it had some real steep stairs that went down to it, which were fine. But it was really hard to get anything in and out of those steep stairs. And those stairs came right into the bedroom, which then, you had to circle around. So you had a lot of doors to go through. So imagine trying to get a sheet of plywood down there. It was hard.
Or even a finished product.
Or even a finished product.
It's any size or depth. Just be like, oh, good God. Yeah.
Yeah. So you're jumping ahead here.
Yeah.
But, so it did have, I don't know what you call them, like a little storm window.
Uh-huh.
You could get out of the basement, but it had a little swing. It didn't have the doors like you're thinking of.
Yeah.
It had just a window that swung up out of the way. So you could climb. And it was probably, 3 foot square window. You could, or maybe 4 foot square window. You could climb in and out of that thing pretty easily. Well, that was the easiest way to take the cases in and out. But it puts you at ground level. It's just grass. So I have to take the cases out and set them in the yard and either climb out or run around the inside. So
oh my God.
I tell you that because my paint shop, that was the nicest thing about that house, is on the edge of the garage.
Uh-huh.
I had a nice little paint booth.
Okay.
Which was had the air sprayer, because that was the outside of the cases were like this black lacquer.
Okay.
Well, it's just kind of shiny black lacquer.
Yeah.
And so it's involved to put that stuff on. I mean, you got to sand it, spray it, sand it, spray it. It takes a while to do. And so it's not like, a rattle can that you just spray it and you're done with it. So I needed a nice paint booth that had, heat in it and
ventilation,
real good ventilation.
Yeah.
And so I'd put a squirrel cage fan.
Okay.
And it would really move the air through there. But problem is, in the winter, move too much air. So I had to figure out how to heat it while it was, so I had worked all that out, had a really nice paint booth. So flash forward to when we moved here.
Mm-hmm.
So we had the shop. My dad, let me back up a little bit there. My dad used to live in Chattanooga, and then he moved here. That was a big reason we bought this place. He moved here and moved his shop from Chattanooga to here, the shop we're in now.
Right.
And so it was set up completely tool-wise. It was set up completely different than what I needed.
I was going to say, how much do you think in here came from the Vestal shop that you have in here now?
Not much.
Not much.
Not much.
Okay.
I'll tell you about that in a little bit.
Okay.
We'll circle back around to that. So we move over here. We had some duplicate equipment. But there's really no place to put a good paint booth here. I was going to have to build something else out there, and it's just like, gosh, we just moved into this house. There's a lot of projects to do.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to tell the wife I want to build a paint booth, and so I can do this. She's like, "You've lost your mind." Which she may not have been far.
There's a good argument there. There's a good argument there.
She might not too far from the truth there. So I didn't build a paint booth.
No.
I tried to paint some in here, but it just it just wasn't working, and I'd kind of hoped the dark side of the whole display case thing.
Yeah.
I told you all the positives.
Yeah.
The hard part for me is I was kind of hoping that, the family would get more involved in it. Maybe my wife would do some of the bookkeeping.
Yeah.
One of the kids would help out with this. And they were all like, we don't want to have anything to do with your stupid project. So it was kind of all on me. And then after a while, it was just like, this is a lot of work.
You met me like 10 years too late, because I would have been like, oh, hell yeah.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. Sometimes in hindsight, I was like, I wish I had pursued that a little bit more. But so back to, takes me back to the ad.
Here.
Well, the ad. I told you I told you it was like a switch.
Yeah.
When I turned it on, I started getting orders. When I turned it off, it almost immediately died.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
Every now and then. Now I put my phone number on the case somewhere on the back or something. And I had a few people call years later.
Yeah.
And they would ask about it, and I'm like, nah, I don't do that anymore.
Yeah.
I just kind of quit because it was, it had run its course.
Right.
I thought, like I said, in hindsight, I kind of wish I still had it. But anyway.
Would it be hard to pick it back up now?
So
because back then you had a job,
That's true. That's true. And you know what's funny is back then I researched it, as far as Google reached in the late 80s, early 90s.
Yeah.
And there wasn't anything like it. There wasn't anything like it at all. You couldn't, if you wanted a guitar display case, you built it yourself.
Yeah.
There was no, well, now go search that. And they're everywhere. They're
but I wonder if it falls into the John Phillips category of like, but it's cheaply made.
That's
it'll
exactly
fall
it.
apart. Whereas if you could be a industry leader on,
it wasn't. So I went after making things for kind of high end collectors.
Yeah.
And I don't know that there's anybody that does that now, but I don't know how many people want that, anymore. Yeah. You can buy scads. In fact, one guy, so when I was coming up with a web page for that thing, I talked to a friend of mine in Memphis who's kind of a marketing guy. He goes, "Oh, you need to come up with some kind of catchy phrase like this or that, da 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 da." And I'm not gonna say it, but I was just like, "Oh, this is stupid," but. But I did it anyway.
Yeah.
And, I had the catchy phrase on the webpage. Well, somebody was bold enough to rip that off.
Oh, yeah.
And that's their company name now.
Really?
And I was like, wow.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I guess
oh, yeah.
It's
what is
the
it?
finest form of flattery or something.
I'm going to quote my buddy Mark Coram with, was it imitation is the sincerest form of flattery? Well, he came over because I'd found some new metal band that had done the opening riff. You'll appreciate this as a guitar person. The opening riff of their song was the opening riff of Mama Tried. But there's no credit in any of their anything to the original. And he listened to it and he's like, well, you know what they say? Imitation is the sincerest form of fucking stealing.
Yeah. There you go. There you go. That's exactly
that needs to be on a bumper sticker.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's kind of, I don't know. I didn't worry too much about it, but I was like, wow. I kind of took it as a compliment almost. It's just kind of like, okay.
This is rambling, man, so I'm going to sidetrack a little bit. So now I've been doing my own thing full time for 3 years and 4 months, something like that. Like I've been doing it a while.
Time.
Knock on wood. And the amount of people who just out and out steal from me. And there's some have been so bold to walk up to my face and say, I'll tell you a phrase. It was right when I started doing work for our former company. And they walked up to me and they're like, I would love to grab lunch with you because, how do you get these big clients? Like, I would love to know how you get these big clients.
And how do I get one from you? Yeah.
And I looked at the person and I didn't think about, of course, you think about stuff. Comedians call it a way homer. You'll get it on the way home. Like, what I thought about was I should have said, well, you know what I did? I just worked really hard over years and got really good at what I did. I didn't take shortcuts. I didn't steal from other people. I just got really good. Like, that's how I got that client. That's how I got PetSafe, because they actually knew I knew what the hell I was doing.
Well, that's...
I named the bear, but that's okay.
Yeah.
But it's just like, and I feel like it's only gotten worse in the internet, how the internet is now, that people are so bold about stealing. Like, it's blatant now.
It's I don't know. Well, it's always been there.
It's always been there. I think and it may be that because people promote themselves online, it's a lot easier to find it.
Maybe that's it. It's more obvious. I mean, look at where we were talking about woodworking. I mean, woodworking's been around for centuries and centuries.
Yeah.
And so, everybody's, there's lots of stealing of ideas there.
Yeah. Influences, air quotes.
Influences, Probably, you're right. It's not as obvious,
Right.
because you don't really know who came up with the original design. You know, who
Yeah.
came up with the Louis XVI chair design or
Yeah.
whatever. It's just like, well, who knows? But I like it. I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
You know? So
Yeah. And that's becoming here. I'm curious how you feel about this when it comes to guitars. Like, you know, there's always argument like, who's the greatest guitar player of all time? Like Jimi Hendrix, Stevie Ray Vaughan, or something. And then you see like an 18-year-old kid now who's playing better than them. You know what I mean? Maybe not with as much soul, but technically.
Yeah.
Like there's this metal guy, Devin Townsend, that he does a weird thing on his guitar where he actually picks up the neck.
Yeah.
And he plays so fast and so precise that you're like, I don't know that Hendrix could have done that.
Yeah.
But you know, but it's like it's just compounded over the years. Like Devin Townsend is that good because the people before him were that good.
It always gets back to how do you rate, you know, Jimi Hendrix was, a lot of people think is the greatest because he was doing stuff that nobody else at all was doing anytime during that. He was out there. So it didn't have as much to do with the guitar playing as he was the pioneer doing stuff that nobody else had done.
Yeah.
Whereas, you know, other ones, you know, like, how do you build them? Do you build them or rate them on a technical ability?
Yeah.
You know, so I don't know. It's
like
hard.
Eddie Van Halen.
Yeah,
Like,
there you go.
Yeah,
It's
technically, is he?
It's hard to say definitely who is the anyway. It's all personal preference. Right?
And it's a difference of there's a buddy of mine that is a hardcore Beatles fan, and I just didn't grow up with the Beatles. Like my parents didn't like the Beatles, didn't like the Stones, didn't like. I'm trying to think who'd be. They only thought Zeppelin was okay or whatever, and you know it was with Dad. It was like I like Paint It Black. I like Gimme Shelter by the Stones, and that's about it. And he was like, the White Album, that's your mom's shit. That ain't mine. Like that, to where I was having an argument with my buddy in college who was like 10 years older than me, and he was like, I don't understand how you can't like the Beatles. It's like, it's because I like the people that are 3 levels above the Beatles, that learn, that somebody learned and improved upon what the Beatles did.
Yeah.
And then somebody learned and improved upon, it just kept going to where I'm like, no, that's why I like this weird Icelandic band, because they're so weird and unique, and they don't sound like anybody else. And he was like, yeah, but you still got to love the Beatles. It's like, I don't have to love anybody. Like, I can like the songs I like, and that's okay. Like,
look at anybody's playlist.
Oh, yeah.
And you're going to go, okay, there's a pretty eclectic list of stuff there. You're all over the map.
Yeah.
So who knows why we like what we like, you know?
Some of us even like somebody like John Mayer. Oh. Microphone stand flies across the room into podcast. It's okay. I dated a young woman who she actually has John Mayer lyrics tattooed all over her body.
Wow.
Because she is so obsessed with John Mayer.
Wow.
Yeah. Is that a bridge too far?
No, what do you mean?
At this point, David reveals to me that he's got John Mayer's lyrics.
It doesn't sound so crazy.
Okay, so you had the shop in Vestal. You're churning out those cases, but then you turn the ad off, and it just kind of
kind of let it die.
You had turned the cases off before you moved out here.
It all happened about. I mean, when we moved here, something had to happen with the display cases, and it's just like, okay, I think there was a lull, and I was like, this is the time. I can't keep it going. I can't keep this up. So that's when I shut it off, and like I say, it was also kind of awkward. This was my dad's shop that we moved from Chattanooga, and so he was still doing some stuff for his people he had hooked up with in Chattanooga. So, you know, your shop is kind of like how your kitchen.
Yeah.
You set it up. I put the knives right here because it makes sense to me. I put this over. Well, you know, everybody's a little bit different, so it's awkward sharing a shop.
Yeah.
So that was another element in it too. So I was just kind of like, nah, I'll just kind of help him out.
Yeah.
Which kind of turned into let me tell you something about that. He retired and decided to move to Chattanooga because I think.
What did he retire from?
He was in sales.
Okay.
I mean, he was in agriculture.
Because this was a hobby.
Yeah, this was always a hobby
Yeah.
for him. And so he had been planning this his entire,
Yeah.
working career. He was going to retire and make furniture. Well, actually, he was going to retire and built a picture frame shop.
Yeah.
He was still doing picture frame shop. So he
Yeah.
built a picture frame shop in Chattanooga.
Yeah.
And actually, he built a big building out back, picture frame shop, and then divided it down the center. And it was a woodworking shop on the other side because that was just kind of his hobby, But he was going to make picture frames. Well, he wasn't there very long, and he hooked up with. He had gone to a show or something,
Yeah.
and he had hooked up with these two artists, these painters, and they were really good.
Okay.
And one of them painted nice scenes, and one of them did like this real intricate detail work. So together, they made a pretty good team. And they did a lot of wall scenes. People would hire him to say, "Hey, I want you to paint,
a mural,
or something on my kid's bedroom or something."
Good God, yeah.
There's lots of money in Chattanooga,
Yes. Yeah.
lots of deep money. So they had made a career out of that, and they painted furniture was just kind of catching on. And as the story goes, they came across him at a show, my dad at a show, and they saw his woodwork, and they said, "Oh, you're coming with us." They already had somebody that they worked with, but they said, they didn't like the quality, and so instantly he went away, and they started giving stuff to my dad. And so that kind of tells you that he made stuff that was intended to be painted. So which means it's a different construction type. You use a lot. You can use a lot of plywood. You can use you can drive nails in the outside and then just cover it with putty.
Yeah.
And cover it up because it's going to be painted, so it doesn't really matter what it looks like. And so he did an amazing amount of furniture down there. He took pictures and kept these books and stuff, and he did a lot of stuff. They had a real good gig going when it was going. And they were in with the painters were in with the doctors' wives and the dentist wives and the lawyers' wives and who all hung out together at the club. And when somebody got something from this little old man outside of Chattanooga, well, I got to have one too.
Yeah.
And he just did one that I always stuck out that kind of epitomized everything, or what he did was somebody brought in a mop and a bucket and a couple of other things into his shop one time, said, "I want you to make a custom cabinet that I can put in the kitchen and keep these items right here. I need them measured to this size," and blah, blah, blah.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And he did. And I don't know what it cost. And then he took it over to the gals who more than doubled the price when they painted it. And so I don't know, it's probably $1,000 cabinet, just to put your mop bucket. So he did tons of stuff like that. Now he did lots of beds and lots of armoires and cabinets and big pieces.
I'm thinking, it was mainly for the adults, or was it some of it like kids?
No, he would do whole for kids too.
Because I think that's what I'm thinking when it comes to painting. I would think of those, I don't know what they're called, but the little that has the bench top, but you can put toys in it. It's almost like a toy chest.
Toy chest
with a bench top, and it has the little like coat rack, and you know what I mean.
Yeah, he made a whole bunch of toy chests, and he made something that we call the 4-drawer chest, the famous 4-drawer chest. It's probably this height, yay wide, and it had 4 drawers. Pretty crazy, huh?
Yeah.
And it had this. He made a little piece that went over the top of it that would hold a changing bed.
Oh. Okay.
So the idea, and it came off. You could just flip these things and take it off. So the idea was, it's a nice, well-made
chest of drawers.
Chest of drawers. And so you use it as a changing table till they don't need that anymore. You take the top off, and now the kid has a chest that, if they want, they can take with them the rest of their life.
Crazy.
He sold a shitload of those. He sold a bunch of those. And they would, paint them up any way they wanted them. So, yeah, he did a lot of kids stuff, too.
Okay.
Yeah.
The mop bucket, though. That's hilarious.
Well, that's what I say. That's the one I remember that just epitomizes stuff. Someday I'll have to show you the books that there's.
Okay.
He did one.
Okay.
They had these little. He carved these birds out.
Okay.
He had these on the bedposts. And he would do stuff like that. He did a baseball bed. Well, I mean, he did several baseball beds.
Yeah.
That, like the headboard had baseball bats on the side and then, baseballs on it and, just custom stuff like that.
Oh,
it was
my
just
God.
all this stuff people could come up with. It was pretty crazy. But so he was in Chattanooga in a great big house by himself and he needed not to be there. So that's a big reason. Well, that's the reason he ended up here. And so that business was it had kind of run its course.
Yeah.
But he still had some, so he was still working in the shop. And this was when I worked just down the road a little bit.
Oh, okay.
And so I would get home, I was 15-minute, not even that, 10-minute drive home. So when I came home, I just pulled right up in the driveway and came into the shop because he was always in here. And we would bang around in the shop for a little bit. But that was a little awkward too. So side note, in woodworking in general, you spend lots and lots and lots of time sanding.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not all that glamorous that you think. There's lots of sanding time. This whole thing is sanding. I spend lots of time there. So I would come in, and there's always sanding to do is the point. I would come in, and I would, immediately start sanding whatever he'd been working on or this or that. And then I started kind of realizing that since he wasn't doing as much work, that it's just like I really didn't need to be coming in and sanding because that's what he was going to work on the rest of the week.
Oh,
and I just knocked it out, an evening, and I'm like, okay. So I started kind of backing away from it a little bit then. But at the same time, the business was kind of dying out. And then at some point, I can't tell you when it actually happened, he just became kind of disinterested in it. I think when the business aspect of it went away, the gals in Chattanooga, he got to a point where he didn't really need to be driving, especially to Chattanooga.
Yeah.
And they were getting a little concerned and said, we're just not going to place any more orders with him. Actually, I think part of it was they were retiring.
Oh,
I think that was part of it too. That all played into it as well. So they decided that they weren't going to place any orders with him just for his safety, basically.
Yeah.
So that kind of took the fun out of it for him. So he was just kind of disinterested in it.
Yeah.
And so I would come down here and bang around a little bit, but I didn't really have much direction. I'd need to make a little coat rack or something.
Yeah.
And he just wasn't interested in it. I would try to get him to come back in. Nah, just not interested. I'll stay here and watch Fox News. He was hooked on Fox News.
David, that's tomorrow's podcast. That's not today's podcast. Spoiler alert.
He was he fell under the Fox News spell.
Oh boy.
But so then I don't really know what happened.
Did you
either.
all kind of cross paths, like as he was waning in it, you were getting more interested?
Well, there was a gap in between there. So the shop sat, I won't say vacant, but it didn't get a lot of attention for a year or two, probably. I didn't really do much.
Okay.
And then I started thinking about it more, and I was looking for another hobby to do, and a little side thing to do or something. And I was like, I'm missing the display case days.
Yeah.
Oh, somewhere in there, I got into the knives.
Yeah, I was gonna.
Okay.
That's not that thing that I wrote down, but I was like, I remember you talking to John about knives. So
yeah. So that started back over in Vestal.
Okay.
That was a hobby a little side hobby that just kind of got out of control, I think.
As it could.
Yeah. So it was kind of cool. So I didn't really make the knives. I just bought blanks and then put the wood part of it, put handles on them. And so, I did that, and you can do that pretty quick. There's not a whole lot of not a whole lot of wood on it, and so it sands, and that whole apparatus over there was different sanders. You just walked around, and I mean, there was gluing time, so that always kind of throws you off a day. But I mean, you could make a knife in a few hours.
Yeah.
Maybe an evening, essentially. I mean, you glue it one night and then you finish it the next night. But so you could, you had pretty instantaneous results there.
Okay.
So you make knives, and it's like addictive. It's just like as soon as you're done, you're like, oh, that was cool. I want to make another one. So and then or you have other ideas. Oh, well, how would that look with different type pins or different type wood, or what if I put two types of wood together here, and it just one thing leads to another. So come Christmas or whatever, you're giving knives away to everybody. Well, you can only do that so long, before. Or people are like, why does this guy keep giving me knives every year? What's he trying to tell me? So my wife decided that, I blame that on her. She decided that we should go to like the farmer's market or something. And this was right when the farmer's market, Charlotte, this is right when the farmer's market started.
Okay.
And the first year, I think it was the first year of the farmer's market.
Okay.
I took my knife sharpening stand down there, and I would sharpen knives and sell knives. We were right next to a bakery, guy that sold baked goods.
Was it VG's?
It was. I wasn't going to say
David.
it.
Yeah.
I wasn't going to say it, but yeah.
Sorry.
No, it's a positive thing.
No, their lemon cookies are unbelievable.
So we're right next to them.
Yeah.
Turns out that David and I were in Boy Scouts together. We didn't know it, but
that's hilarious.
Anyway, we didn't find that out till a long time later.
That's
but
funny.
So I guess I say it was the fact that everybody had their money out when they were at VG's.
Yeah.
And I was the next stop. They hadn't put their money up yet. And they're like, oh, and they're happy with their lemon cookie going high on sugar or something going, yeah, these are cool. I'll buy one.
Oh my God.
And so that was our first year, I think was our best year ever.
Yeah.
And then, the next year rolls around and we're placed differently. And I never did do as good. But the out of control part was, so we did it. I think we did it every other week there. And then for some stupid reason, this was probably my idea, we decided to go to Chattanooga. Chattanooga has a really nice market if you've never been there. So we would go to Chattanooga on alternate weekends.
Yeah.
Sounds all well and good, but now I'm going to selling knives at a thing every weekend.
Yeah.
And we're not selling a lot, but I'm making, $200, $300, $400 every weekend. So I got to come back and restock.
Yeah.
So that means every night I'm making knives.
Oh my God.
And every weekend I'm selling knives. So we did a summer of that. And I was like, wait a minute. This was just supposed to be a little hobby that was just fun to do. Make some knives, give them away for Christmas. And now it's like, this is consuming my life. This has got to stop. So I burned myself out on that. So I don't know how. Anyway,
we forgot. Yeah, we were had passed the cases.
So
but you had longed for the cases days.
Yeah,
past the knives.
Yeah. So the knives carried over to here. Actually, I guess I just started the knives in Vestal, and then when I got over here, that's when I really made some special equipment. I
can see the logic for Chattanooga now. You're like, well, we're already like 45 minutes closer.
Yeah,
so why not?
Exactly. I don't know how we got into it, but it was just like I don't know. That was a bad. In hindsight, that wasn't the best. Best fun. It was a lot of fun. Those markets and stuff are a lot of fun. I thought about getting back into something.
Oh, good Lord, the market now is.
I know it's crazy. Yeah,
because she was on here before and she talked about. She was like, oh yeah, there's one point where it was just on the stage. Yeah. Like the first year or two, it was just on the stage.
Yep.
And she was like, and now it's like it starts at the stage and it ends 2 blocks away.
Yeah, she's right. We were right next to VG on the stage. Yeah.
That's insane.
Then what happened? Maybe that's when it went through kind of a dormant time. Then I came down and started just kind of tinkering around, and that's when we still had some duplicate equipment left here. You know, it's just like, I don't know what to do with it. And I mean, some stuff we immediately sold. I got a table saw. Well, I had a table saw. It also, well, you don't need, well,
Yeah.
it'd have been nice to have two table saws because
Yeah.
you can just set one up and then leave it set up for, you know, fine tooth blade versus a, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
So, but we got rid of that. And, you know, so I just started going through over the course of a few years. So let me back up. I told you my dad made stuff that was intended to be painted,
Right.
but I kind of liked the natural woods.
Right.
And I used dissimilar woods that I put together a lot. That's kind of tricky in itself too. You got to figure out which woods play well with other ones because of expansion and contraction. You know, sometimes they blow apart, so there's lots of trial and error there. But so I started kind of getting into that, and I started making some pieces, and it's like the knives. One thing leads to another. You make one and go, wow, you know, well, why didn't I do it this way? I'll do it that way on the next one.
Yeah.
Well, maybe I could put these two woods together. Let me try that. I'll do that on the next one. So before you know it, it's out of control. So that's when I started kind of retooling stuff. There was some equipment that my dad had that was, you know, kind of worn out, probably not that good to begin with. And I should just get rid of that and replace it with something newer. Because now, you know, he started from nothing and built up the shop.
Yeah.
Well, now I'm starting from already an established shop.
Yeah.
And I need to upgrade it a little bit.
Right.
So, you know, for no more than he spent, I spent, you know, it's just like, okay, we got some pretty good stuff in here now.
And because you already had some stuff, you're like, I don't have to replace this right now.
Exactly.
I can do this on a plan to where it's not going to kill me.
Yeah.
Budget wise.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, it's funny you said that. I got my a sander over there, which is I use it a lot.
Yeah.
And it's I've repaired it a few times. And the other day, a month or so ago, one of the bearings started squealing in it real bad. And I was like, this thing's about to go. And I was like, you know, I use that thing a lot. I could use a little bit bigger one. I think it's time to upgrade.
You've gotten your money out of this one.
Yeah, exactly. So come the first, I've decided that I was going to do it now. And I was just like, holidays and everything. Come the first of the year, I'm gonna be upgrading sanders over there.
Oh, like what I was thinking about, because I mentioned John's name, John Phillips Forged. I've had a friend, and she'll probably hear this and know this. She was like, "There's a lot of times where you just throw names in there, and we don't know who the hell you're talking about." So maybe give a little bit of context. Okay. No, for me, and I was like, "Well, I just assume everybody knows Dale and Sean." Like, you know, if you're listening to this, but John Phillips, the knife maker. I keep telling Sean, because he wants to get into woodworking, that he needs to come out here. Yeah. And he's like, yeah, we need to do. Now that he's working for himself, it's like, okay, we're just going to do that. But now I feel like there needs to be a trade-off where him and John need to come out here, and then you need to go and check out John's shop.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
Because his metal shop is. The first time I went in there, I'm sorry, John, you could barely walk through it. Yeah. Like there was stuff everywhere, and now. He's went through and organized everything. He's built a separate. It's about the size. It may be like 6 to 8 foot deeper.
Oh, okay.
But because it's an old garage, like but he's built like this room over here for certain things, like all this stuff. I was like, holy shit! The last time I was in there, I was like, this is a lot better than the first time I came in here. And he's like, yeah. And I don't know. Well, I'll go ahead and say this. He was like. Where he lives is not the best place in the world. It's kind of in literally in the projects. Yeah. And he said, no, but the good thing is on both sides of me are illegal aliens. So if I do work, nobody's going to say anything. But he was like, I also contain my work to the day to where any noise and stuff I make, everybody's at work. Yeah. And he was like, at a certain point, I just don't work. Or I do stuff that's not going to make a lot of noise. Yeah. But when he's like hammering stuff out, he's like, that's all daytime work when nobody's around. Yeah. But I still think that's funny that, I got to get Yeah, you got to go check it because his shop is amazing.
Yeah,
and him and
that's a
Sean
good idea.
would freak out coming out here, I'm sure.
Well,
Oh, okay. Here,
I could see why.
Now I have a question. So this was like 5 years or so ago. I remember sitting this thing moves, correct? This table.
Well, yeah,
I remember it was sitting this way.
That's funny. I just turned it. I just made a bed frame, and I needed a place for it to work on it, and I had to spin this 90 degrees.
Oh, okay.
Just so I'd have room. And then once I did it, so yeah, I just moved this a few weeks ago. So
Which
that's pretty
also
good.
reminds me, Jason for years was like, I need to see if David would build me a cigar humidor to my space.
yeah.
I was like, and when you were talking about the humidification, I was like, yeah, dummy, just do it. Just now he has, sorry, Jason, he has a lot of money now. So it's like, yeah, do it now. So I'm helping
I have
both
a lot
of
of
you.
I have a lot of time now.
All I expect from you is my standard 85% commission.
Oh, you got it, man.
That's my stock joke with Sean, and he's like, I think every time I say that, he's like, he looks at the other person, and goes, it seems kind of fair.
Seems kind of fair. Yeah, I'm gonna have to go up a little bit on the give you the special Jody price.
I remember sitting on top of this thing. This was like 5 years or so ago when you were having something. We came down and checked it out. I don't even know what you call it. It's almost like a big piece that goes in your bedroom that has doors that open up that you can set a TV inside. What would that be considered? That had like 2 or 3 drawers here and then something that opened up. I swear there was one of these on top of this because I was like, damn, it wasn't quite touching the ceiling.
Yeah.
But I was just like, how the hell did you two get that thing up and down? Like,
Well, that was I told you my dad built. That was probably something my dad might have built. I don't know. I think it was.
I think it was.
I don't remember the piece, but he that was his philosophy. Is he liked to build that stuff on the table.
Okay.
He would start building it on the table. We always called it the carcass, just
yeah,
the main
yeah.
frame.
Yeah.
And then at some point you set it down on the floor. And the idea is that you don't want to be like getting up and down. When you get older, that's a problem. When you get
I already know.
Getting up and down off the floor to do all this stuff. So it's easier to build it on the table. And well, there's one of them here. He would use those to step it down. He would step it and then step it a little lower and then walk it down with those things. So that's how he did it. Now, one time he was up on that table and he was building something like that.
Yeah.
And this was, it wasn't that many years ago. He had kind of, this was on the tail end of it.
Yeah.
And he was about to quit making stuff. And, the whole thing collapsed. It wasn't structurally sound at that point, and it collapsed and knocked him off the table. He goes head first and hits the floor. Yeah, and that was before we had a lot of these rubber mats.
Oh my God.
So yeah, he cut his head pretty good on the floor.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Was he able to get up and?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. He survived it okay. But
oh my God.
I think it scared him enough that he kind of quit building stuff like that. But like I said, that was kind of on the decline anyway.
I want to think this was probably about 5 years ago. It was somewhere around there that we were over here, and I just remember seeing that thing and just thinking, geez, like I think I could barely even touch the top of it from standing on the ground.
I don't know. No telling what it was. No telling.
The thing I wrote down, so spoiler alert, I write stuff down in my hand so I don't forget. So the thing I wrote down was trends and fads. Because what I was thinking of, did I show you the thing I got? I bought something on Amazon. Sorry, woodworkers around the world.
You'll be disappointed. It'll break in no time.
No, if I show you, I feel like this is something that your brain might be like, oh my God, I think I could make that work. But I think I bought it so cheap. I don't think you can do it and match. I'll try and pull it up, but I can never find a coat rack that I liked that wasn't just massive.
Yeah. So you can stop there. It's like you're describing 1,000 different things.
Yeah.
I've got this thing that I want somebody to duplicate.
No. I was trying to think because you and I talked a while back and you were like, yeah, I tried to, I'm going to quote you back to you. It was like, I'm trying to figure out something I can make that I can engineer and build like a jig or something for it. And I can almost like process build it to where I can do it efficiently and make time and all that. I think this is something that could be done, but it wouldn't. Yeah. I think those are the exact things we were talking about.
Yeah.
But it's also like, I think I bought this set of 5 for like $12. So
Yeah.
when I was looking for a coat rack for years, I've been like, I need something, because I just throw stuff on the back of a chair in my bedroom. I was like, I got to do better than that. So I found these things that mount in the wall. So the white part is metal, and it has a piece on the inside that comes out.
Oh, that's
and
too funny.
You screw into the wall, and it like countersinks, and that holds it in there. And I was like, but I think that a set of 5 of those costs like $12.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
I was like, yeah, but you can't do that and really make money. Yeah.
That's probably a special made piece you got there. Then that's just a piece of wood.
Yeah.
Wood dowel. See the
Yeah.
it's just a wood dowel stuck in there.
So the funny thing is, I took a picture, because when I got done, I took that picture and I was like, this looks like an indie rock album cover. I was like, if you want to license it, I'll sell it to you.
That's pretty funny. It does. Yeah.
One of the fake band names we can come up with. But yeah, like trends and fads, because I want to think the big piece that I was talking about seemed like an old school piece. Like, because I see those curved pieces behind you. You know, it's kind of ornate, has the things back there in the corner.
Oh, that's the patterns.
But, you know what I mean? It has, you know, like the top had those things.
Yeah.
It wasn't super modern looking or anything.
Yeah.
But is that something, when you're building pieces, or even like your dad, it's like looking at trends and fads and going, nah, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do my own style. Or do you know what I mean?
So I do. So you that takes us into, are you making? Okay, we're making custom stuff. That's just what we do. So who's the customer? Or, you know, are you making it for sale? Just, you know, you can sell at the market or something. Yeah. That takes you down, you know, one path. Whereas, you know, who pays the bills? Well, here's somebody who wants me to make them something custom.
Right.
And it's funny you said that, because I got a good example just the other day. Somebody reached out via online, and they saw a picture of something I had made, and said, "Can you make me?" And it was just a little cabinet, 3 feet high, and one door. Can you make me a cabinet like that, except with these dimensions? And I said, "Sure, of course I can."
Yeah.
So one thing I do now, I just had one out here.
Oh, look at this.
I do CAD drawings.
Yeah, I that is something we hadn't touched on yet. It's like your daytime gig forever was as an electrical engineer. So
yeah.
Hence the jig. It's like, no, I got to engineer this to figure out the most efficient and best way to do this.
Exactly.
In a time appropriate manner.
And that's where the
this thing.
there you go. It looks familiar, huh?
Yeah.
So this is invaluable now. I mean, there's lots of times you get down in the shop and you're making something, and all of a sudden you realize you've backed yourself into a corner, going, "Oh, I wish I hadn't attached that piece yet, because now I can't get to the other piece." So one thing I've started doing, I've been doing it for several years, has lots of nice side effects, is I draw it up in a 3D model, and then I can send that to a customer and say, "Hey," because this is where the communication gets broken down. "Hey, this is what I think you said. I'm showing you a picture of what you just told me you said you wanted. So then we can take it from there." Okay, so that was a side thing. So I do this. This lady says, "Can you make me this cabinet?" And I said, "Sure. I'll make you a 3D drawing and send it back." So I did make the drawing, send it back, and she said, "Well, they really want to maximize space. Can you make the cabinet the same size as the top?" And I was like, I could, but have you ever seen anything, you know?
Yeah, that doesn't have a lip.
with a top that doesn't have a lip on it? And I said, I would suggest we put at least a quarter of an inch or a half an inch or something. And we can't, I'm trying to figure out, does she have, it was for her bathroom. Mm-hmm. Does she have constraints in the bathroom?
Right.
Versus, well, anyway, we kind of go back and forth there. And she really kind of wants just this top, the same size. And I'm like, oh God, this is one of those that she's the only one that's going to think this is a good looking piece.
Yeah.
Everybody else is going to walk in and go, who's the dumbass that made that?
Yeah.
And it's just like, oh, this is one of those, I don't want to be that guy.
Yeah.
Well, luckily, I think what she really wanted was one of those things you were just talking about, the $30 and you put it together yourself thing.
I'm thinking of Walmart bookcases.
Yeah, there you go. I think that's what she really wanted. So last time I sent her something, I haven't heard back from her, so I'm kind of hoping we're done. Because it's one of those I don't really want to make it. So I don't know if I touched on your trends and you kind of do what the customer does, but. Yeah, and it also kind of ties into what we were talking about earlier. My dad made stuff, like with a frilly that was intended to be painted, and maybe it probably is generational that I like making the natural wood, starker.
Yeah, that's
iron legs, simpler looking stuff, which is probably more the style now.
Yeah.
So
because you've seen it, that bookcase that I have in my living room. That I designed it, I drew it up, and my uncle and I built it, but he kind of like started. And once he got started, he had what he wanted to do.
Oh, yeah.
And so it has those things on the top. I was like, I didn't want those.
Yeah.
This is a permanent piece. It's going, son of a bitch. I was like, and then I was like, I wanted the shelves to stay, I want them built in so that they would be structurally more sound. Uh-huh. He's like, no, we need to build
adjustable.
I was like, I don't want that. I literally have these measured out to fit books.
Yeah.
Like a certain size. I was like, I never need any, and he still did it. So I think I lost 2 shelves on each side.
Oh.
A shelf on each side to where I was like, and granted, it was like, he was like, this is a combo like birthday, Christmas gift or housewarming gift or something. I was like, but it's in my house. Like, and it's
built in. Yeah.
No.
Oh, it's not? Oh, okay.
No.
It looks like it.
It does.
Yeah.
But every time I see, because he also I think he freehanded that piece at the top. And you can see.
Yeah.
It's like, shit. It's like,
see,
I also feel like he's gotten to a point, if I could figure out what that, what's it called? The coating,
the finish? The lacquer finish, yeah.
Yeah, if I could figure out what that color was, I could probably pry bar that top piece off. And no.
Well, you probably could, but the problem is that you could probably never match that stain again. That's where that's where it comes in. So here's just one little example, but I've done things where I'll draw something on the CAD and stuff like the templates.
Yeah.
I'll draw it on the CAD. Then you have to print it. And, of course, I can only print this size. And you have to tape them all together. And I've made those. And then you make a template. And then you make... Because, it's... Freehanding sounds good.
Yeah. Yeah.
But somehow you always get off.
Yeah.
Always get off just a little.
Well, I've been looking at... Because my uncle who passed away, he was really into doing tile. He got into doing tile and tile cutting. To where he was just looking, he just did it for shits and giggles, but he was like, oh, you want a backsplash? I'll do that for you. Like, cause he really got into it.
You want to get better at it. Yeah.
So I keep looking at like my kitchen. I'm like, eventually I'm going to redo my kitchen, but I'm going to do 80% of the work. And I keep looking at my flooring going, cause my kitchen's it's a nightmare because it's got so many twists and turns. And then finally I was somewhere, my friends Tim and Stephanie. Hi, Tim and Stephanie. Stephanie's the one who made fun of me for not listing the last name, so I'm not going to list her last name here. Just to poke at her. But I think you've met them before. They're the ones who had the tiki bar in my old house.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I was over at their new place in South Knoxville, and she was showing me the tile they had on their kitchen floor, and it's like 3 foot by 3 foot or 4 foot by 4 foot. And I was like, holy crap! Like I can literally cover 90% of my flooring and then just figure out something to go around that little island. I was like, I think I can do this. I was like, oh God, this is becoming a reality now.
Yeah. There's so much on the internet now. That's what gets me. It's just like you don't have to know how to do anything to begin with. You just kind of
that stupid coat rack. Like I've been looking for a coat rack for 5 years.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden I see, because it was a sponsored post. I was like, oh, you can just do wall mount? Oh, that wasn't on its own board and know, it wasn't.
Yeah.
And I was like, holy crap. Okay. I guess I'm going to do this. It's $10 or $12. I was like, we'll see if it works.
Yeah.
And it, like I was measuring like, okay, this is behind a door. I need to make sure I can close the door. It's insane.
Dang.
Yeah.
Look at you.
Okay, trends and fads. Yeah, what do you think? I'm trying to think. So you've done all these different things. Are there things you're like, I never want to do that again, like frames?
So one small thing comes to mind immediately. We were in Arizona, Sedona. We were in Sedona. Okay. Big thing in Sedona is they have that they have like a mesquite wood and different. They don't have many natural trees out there. I mean, but anyway, they would take mesquite, and it's kind of a rough, knotty piece of wood. So wood turners will get it, and in the cracks of the knots and stuff like that, they put this liquid turquoise stuff.
Oh my God!
Have I told you about this?
No,
I've got some up at the house.
I'm thinking of the glass that looked like a river that Jenny was just like, good God, this thing was a nightmare. That table. That
yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that was a learning curve.
Trial and error.
Yeah. So that's funny. I might make another one of those. Yeah. When I bought that piece of wood for that, the main top, I got two of them.
Yeah.
And the other one's a better looking piece of wood than that one. So I'm going to try that again someday, but it's kind of fallen on the back burner. But
turquoise in.
But the turquoise.
Yeah.
So, and then they turn it, and it's they're really neat looking.
I think I've seen some of those.
Okay, I got a little bit up at the house, but so I got some of this turquoise stuff, and I'm going to try that as inlays.
Yeah.
And it turns out that stuff is so hard. I mean, just dries so hard that you can't hardly work with it.
Okay.
And so I'm trying to, so you pour it, so it's obviously not level. You got to wait for it to dry. Well, then when you go to sand it, it's so hard that it doesn't really sand down, but all the wood around it does. And so it's just God. Okay, I didn't really do this bad use. So I did a couple of tables with that on it, and I sold them on Etsy.
Yeah.
And I think I had some other, your pictures stay on Etsy, and people came back and said, hey, could you make me one of those? And I'm like, no, I'm not ever playing with that turquoise stuff again. So that's one that popped up immediately, that it's just like, no, I'll probably never do that again. I'm sure there's lots of other ones. But
like isn't framing a pain in the butt for as cheap as everybody wants it?
Yeah, that's probably I wouldn't get into the picture framing business just because it's pre-made ones are just so prolific now. And
although there's a guy in Farragut that's all he does.
Yeah.
I think it's like Frame Theory or something. Josh, he's really close with a lot of friends of mine, and they're like, oh no, we swear by him, because he also does like light boxes and all that other stuff. Well,
there you go. It's not to say that that's not desirable, and there are people that'll pay to do it, but it's a pretty small market,
right?
And it's just too competitive. So it's just like I don't see myself getting back into that. But
I hate to say I buy frames at Walmart.
Well,
because it's hard to beat that. Like it's
And
Yeah.
unfortunately that's what a lot of people. Now remember, I was in the picture frame business,
Yeah.
so you can make some. Your friend Josh, I'm sure the quality is
Oh yeah, it's insane.
hands above what you get at Walmart.
Yeah.
You can say that about furniture too. It's
Yeah.
just like, this table you get is going to be a whole lot sturdier and nicer than what you get at Walmart.
Because I think I bought a new microwave like 2 years ago.
Yeah.
So my old microwave, you could fit my new microwave in the old microwave.
Oh wow.
Like, do you remember that old one? Like it was massive.
Yeah.
It's older than me. It's from
Wow.
like 77 or earlier 78.
Yeah.
And then I got that new one and it's already like not heating as well. And I'm like,
Yeah.
holy crap, that other one lasted almost 40 years.
Yeah. You can say that on any TVs.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'm about to have to get a new TV for my bed, or I've ordered one. It'll be at my house the next day or two.
It needs a stand, doesn't it?
No, it's going to sit on top of my
it-
chest of drawers.
Probably needs a custom stand. I'm just throwing that out.
So
I'm
what's
just throwing
funny
that out.
is, I actually measured it. I was only. This is going to sound really bougie and fancy. I was only going to get like a 30-inch, 32-inch TV in there.
Yeah.
And then I measured the top of the chest of drawers. I was like, wait, the top of the chest of drawers is about 36 inches wide.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, so how big? And I got into the details.
Yeah.
Like, okay, so a 40-inch TV is
actually
38 inches wide. And I was like, okay, well, that's too. Oh, wait, no, the feet on this thing are inset.
Yeah.
So I can hold. So I literally, what drove it was how big a TV I could get with inset enough feet to sit on. I was like, now I'm going to have. And there was one point where I was like, I don't need a TV in here. I need to read more. And I was like, and then I went to bed one night. I was like, I need a TV in here. Like, I can't. There are nights where I'm just too tired and I need something on in the background while I fall asleep.
Yeah.
But no, I appreciate. But
That's one of the things on my list to do. Is our TV is in a cabinet up at the house, and so that dictates how big your TV can be. Well, we've decided we need a bigger TV. We can't see as good, so that means I got to get rid of that cabinet.
Oh my God!
And make a new stand. And so I've
or you can do the wall mounting thing, which scares the crap out of me.
Yeah.
But it's got to work. Like
I gotta make a stand, man.
Oh.
Come on, I gotta make a stand.
That sounds more political again. I got to make a stand.
I mean, anybody else, you could do a wall mount, but I got to make a stand.
Because I was actually looking at TV going, okay, my window's right there. How big of a TV could, and then I could have the whole top of the chest of drawers to put books, to move the TV up to where I was like, no, I'm just going to put, what am I doing? Scope creep. I'm just,
there you go.
I'm like, I just need to get this. I need to spend as little money. I think my uncles and I talked about that. Like I had to get a new TV for my living room and I got like a 50-inch 4K smart TV. And I think it was like $230.
What?
Yeah, it's $228 plus taxes.
Wow.
It was Best Buy exclusive. It's a good TV.
Wow.
But I was like, and then I bought this new TV and I kept looking. I was like, hell, I almost can't get a 40-inch for under $200. I finally found one and it was like $169. So with tax and everything is $180.
Wow.
And
Okay,
I was
those
like,
would come down a lot. That's encouraging.
so my uncles and I were talking about that. I was like, I remember my mom and dad got one TV and my uncle got the same TV and it was one of those massive rear projection big screens.
Yeah.
It was God knows. Yeah. It was almost a square, but that shit was like $2,000.
Yeah.
I was like, now I'm getting a TV that I can see zits on the faces of the people. And I bought for $169.
Wow.
Like, that's insane. Okay, so
Technology marches on.
So we'll end up talking about the shop. So the shop, it's a 2-car.
Yeah, it's a little bit less. It's just about 1,000 square feet, just a fuzz under 1,000 square feet. So this was a oddity when we bought the place. It was just an unfinished garage. It didn't have power or anything.
Huh.
And so that's the first thing we did is we called got the electrician out here, and I said, I want plugs as close together as you can put them per code. And we need, we got some 220 equipment, so we need a couple of 220 lines and . So we got that done. And then we insulated it and I was going to put drywall up.
Yeah.
And I got a couple of quotes for that because, short side story, I did drywall years ago, and that was one of those things. Okay, this is kind of what you were talking about, redoing some of the stuff in your kitchen and this and that. It's just like, my only point is you got to know your limits on those things.
I've hung sheetrock and drywall before, and it's, as long as you've got, it's not just you, it's fine. If it's just you or one other person, it's a nightmare.
Yeah, so following that, it's just like, I knew I wasn't going to drywall this myself. I'm gonna farm it out. So
it was me and the wallpaper. Yeah, it's like the wallpaper was a bridge too far for me because I was like, I can't get this shit off the walls. And then that guy came in there and had it done like 3 days. I was like,
that's funny.
Son of a bitch. Okay.
So anyway, then we went. It's just like it was going to cost way more to put drywall up. So we were wandering around Lowe's, and I saw this cheap ass paneling for, and I was like, for what this is, it really doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So cheap ass paneling it is. Yeah. So we had that up in like a weekend, but
oh my God, that's how it goes. All this equipment. So you're kind of out to. Did you get time to actually build this how you wanted to? Or do you, now that you're retired, do you look at it and say, I need to pull everything out and redo? So
when I decided at some point, I made the conscious decision that I'm taking over the shop.
Yeah.
And that's when I started kind of retooling it, got rid of some stuff that, equipment that I didn't really use, and replaced it with other stuff. I moved things around a little bit, but not a lot. I'm going through, you can see I got a few things pulled out here, and I'm going through the beginning stages of getting ready to redo the shop.
Because I think you and I, like 2 months ago, you were talking about the green thing, the frame cover, and you're like,
I need to get rid of that.
And I told Sean, and he was like, I would probably take that if he or if you want to sell it or whatever.
I forgot about that. I'm glad you reminded me, because I was looking at that the other day, going, that needs to go. I need to pull it out and clean it up.
Him and Dale had a deck built on the back of their house, which is really nice.
Yeah.
And then the guy built it's a friend's husband who does like big work.
Yeah.
And he built a bigger shed for like his motorcycle and Dale's scooter.
Yeah.
And he said the minute that shed got built, he was like, he looked at his other shed that he's been using as wood shop, and he's like, I'm going to build another shed. Because he was like, that one, he was like, I have to drag all my equipment out to work.
Yeah.
And he was like, it's a giant pain in the ass. I was like, before you do that, it's like, let's get measurements on that piece of equipment so you can put that on a back wall.
Yeah.
And you can do that.
Yeah.
And he was like, holy shit, that's a great idea.
You should take a picture before you leave.
Here. Yeah. But yeah, are you to that, now that you're retired and this will be more, I don't want to say full time, but more time. Are you kind of thinking it's time again to kind of look, you said you've kind of been looking through it and like,
yeah, so we're delving into the retirement thing now, which is a different conversation, but there's an adjustment period for that. And I knew that I was kind of in until the first of the year, I'm kind of in adjustment period for that. And then we got some travel coming up.
And we got a new grandbaby. So
we got a new grandbaby. So we'll be going back out west sometime. So when we figure that out. So I was kind of loosely thinking, I'm not going to make any decisions or anything till after the first of the year. Yeah. But you're right. I'm starting to take care of projects around the house, and I'm like, okay, I'm starting to get a little bored now. I need something to do. It's time to get back in the shop.
Yeah.
And oddly enough, we were just talking about the sander.
Yeah.
That's what's going to start redoing the whole shop, because it's going to be on its own stand. And so, that means that piece has to move. Well, where does that move? Well, then it starts the big shuffle. And anyway, yes, I plan on doing quite a bit in here.
And I hope that's not. Have you thought about using like the upstairs now for like storage or?
I have got some stuff stored up there.
Yeah. Is that the rain?
Yeah,
finally?
I think so.
To kind of keep it out of the elements.
Yeah, to keep it out of the element. It gets real hot up. It's like any attic storage. It's
Yeah.
hard to get in and out of. So it's long-term storage. Already got some stuff up there, long-term storage, but short-term. I got a lumber. It's always a problem.
Yeah.
You accumulate a lot, but you never have the piece you're looking for.
It's always a little bit too short.
Or, yeah, so I was doing something the other day, and I was going to, it was this thing. I was going to make it out of pine. And I don't make a lot of stuff out of pine, but I was going to make that out of pine. And I come down, and I'm like, damn it, I don't have enough pine. I got to go. I got all this crap here, all that stuff outside. I got to go buy lumber.
Yeah.
So there's always that. And so I've briefly thought about building some shed out back that I could just put long-term store for lumber, but I don't know. I really need to get rid of all this crap first. I need to use up what I got first.
Okay. Yeah. And you need, if it's somewhere to go, we need to put a certain shelf in the mighty yard, and it can go home with me. Is that it?
That's it.
Holy crap.
Under all those layers of dust. It's been there for years.
Son of a bitch. I knew you were going to give me a hard time about that.
I wasn't going to do it on this, but that comes later.
Yeah, I was thinking about that on my way out here. I was like, I need to just take that so I can sand it and paint it. Yeah. And then I'll figure out mounting it and stuff later. But
yeah, you may need some help on that because we'll talk about that in a little bit.
Yeah. Here's where we'll really end. Well, let's touch on this and then we'll end on something else. But you do a lot with actual equipment because we talked off mic about a lot of people do hand plane. Right. I feel like, no offense to our friend who we mentioned earlier, which I won't say his name, but it's kind of like the hipsterdom of, no, I have to do it this way. You don't think so? I feel like some people just have too much time, too much money, too much.
I don't know. There's a funny commercial on TV that I crack up about every time. I think it's Dr. Pepper or something. It doesn't matter. But there's a guy talking to his girlfriend, and they're talking about grills. Yeah. And she says, have you been going over to this other grill? And he says, she uses propane. I use, this is natural. And she says, well, it tastes the same to me. And he's like, what? He's mortified. What? Propane? Yeah. In charcoal? Yeah. I mean, to the purist, that's like, those are fighting words, So it's all in how far down you want to drill.
Okay.
No pun intended.
There. Let's see if that shows up on the mic.
So there's certainly a place for
there's a place for both, but I feel like now I think it's more that
I don't know if you can blame it on hipsters. I think it's always been around. That's why hand planes and stuff are still popular.
I think I see the hipsterdom in like this is a $200 pair of jeans that I hand did all this. I was like, that's great, but not all of us can do that.
I get lots of magazines that have all different tools and all that stuff, and some of them are just you buy kits of the little planes, all different sizes, and they're all made out of brass, and they're all they're just it's the I don't know, like the Macy's or something of tool catalogs, and you're like, those are all great, but what happens when you drop it on the floor, which is going to happen. Yeah. And it's just like, those aren't really usable. They're just like giving somebody a really nice looking pocket knife.
Let's take it back to the beginning. It's the Eric Clapton guitars.
Yeah.
You've got that plane sitting on your wall to look cool, as opposed to
there you go.
This actually works.
Yep. Actually, those are, I don't have very many, but they're probably gifts.
Oh,
people think since you do woodworking, you need a plane. I don't know what to get you. So I get it. And I'm like, well, it's a plane, a nice plane. I'm never going to use it. Cause like we said earlier, it's just like, I've committed more to power tools. I'm more of a, not how you get it done, but just get it done.
Yeah. I laugh cause anytime something like that, you said, I think of my dad. Cause like a couple that we're both friends with, we're looking for a meat grinder. So I was like, you know what? Dad goes to yard sales and auctions. Hey, Dad, they're looking for an old school meat grinder. He's like, okay, on it. Like a week later, he brought me 2 meat grinders.
Yeah.
And one of them was massive and one of them was medium size. And I was like, okay, cool. And I took it to them. They're like, oh, God, this is one more than we need, but that's cool. We have 2 sizes now. And then a week later, he brought me a small one because they were rebuilding the RV. He's like, if they need a meat grinder on the road. And they were like, I gave that to him and they looked at it and they're like, tell your dad to stop buying this meat grinders.
Yeah.
And I had to call them and be like, they're good.
Yeah.
Stop
we got
buying
the meat grinder
grinders.
covered.
They got it covered. And that couple still makes fun of that. They're like,
Yeah.
well, your dad really took care of us. It's like, did you ever install that one in the RV? It's like, nope, not in a million years.
Yeah.
No. Shit, I keep thinking of stuff. The van. So the van was a big
That was
deal.
that was something I'd wanted to do for a long time.
But now they've gotten more like affordable or common. I hate to say common.
Yeah.
There's more options now.
I say I started a trend because after I built mine, everybody does it now.
I see them
They're everywhere.
everywhere.
Yeah, it's a big
Although I hate
thing.
to say Kristen had hers, I think before you had that one.
Oh yeah.
But she keeps telling me, she was like, we need to have David and Jenny come down and we need to just talk vans. I was like,
Yeah.
you all can do that.
It was funny. We did that at your last get together.
At the cookout?
We kept, migrating back to, we both have, it's just travelers have
Hashtag van life. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
what she said.
Yeah.
I keep saying that you all need to, although last time I was up there, it was packed. That upper, I was telling you all about the upper level at the Coliseum. So I went on like a Tuesday, because I think I was telling Jenny this. Like I went there on like a Tuesday during a bye week.
Yeah.
And almost all the slots were taken. I was like,
Really?
what in the hell? The guy who told me about it was like, there's never anyone up there.
It's funny. It's a good idea. In fact, I was kind of thinking there's a bike event downtown this weekend.
Okay.
And I always like to go down and do that, but it's at night. It's the Tour de Lights.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
It's at night. And so I was like, well, I usually go out a group of us will go out, have drinks afterwards. And I'm like, well, since we live way out here, I don't really want to drive home. I was like, that would be perfect to go have the camper there, just ride my bike over there, change clothes, come back out, have a few drinks, go back there, spend the night. So I might do it this weekend, but I don't know.
You might look to see how booked up it'll be.
Well, that's I hadn't gotten there yet.
Yeah.
We got a bunch of other things going on, so I don't know if I'm going to make it or not. So.
What the guy had told me was it's a little pricier than
it is
normal.
Yeah.
But he was like, considering you're right in the heart of downtown, he was like, it's totally worth it.
Yeah.
It's totally worth it.
That was my takeaway too. Yeah. It was
because you're not in Sevier County or something.
Yeah.
Okay. This will be the final thing. So if somebody decided they wanted to get into woodworking, is there a piece of advice or is there like 3 or 4 pieces of equipment they should get?
Don't go cheap. You need a table saw.
Okay.
And don't go cheap on a table saw. And
Okay.
I say that from experience because I started out with one of those small contractor saws that you see at
Lowe's or Home
Depot or something.
Yeah.
And this was back over when I was setting up the Vestal shop. I thought I'm gonna start with that table saw because I didn't have any money.
Yeah.
And it does marginally well. And one day I'm cutting. The problem with those is the blade is all the way. The table is small, and the blade is all the way to the back of the table.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm trying to cut a piece of plywood, 4x8 sheet of plywood, and I'm most of the way through, and you're kind of pushing down to keep the board there and everything, and the whole saw starts to tip, and I'm like, well, this is bad situation.
Yeah.
I got this table saw. If I move, the board's gonna bind and probably kick back out, or something ugly is gonna happen, you know. And so it was. I got rid of it right after that, and bought a real table saw.
Oh my God. Okay.
So that's one thing you need, and I don't know. Beyond that,
Sanding equipment.
sanding equipment. You can spend a lot on sanding equipment. So speaking of that, that's one thing I've got set up. You can have a sander and just change out the paper on it.
Right.
Well, that's a real pain in the ass when you usually start coarse sand and gradually get down to finer sandpaper where you're changing the sandpaper a lot. Or you do like I've got, I mean, it's taken a while to get there, but I have several sanders with different grits in them. So now I just grab the different sanders. So, it's just, you just expand with it. But
I thought with you saying you spend so much time doing that, something that helps speed the plow on that.
Yeah, exactly. Clamps, you can't have enough clamps.
Yeah.
So,
And if you're building out a shop, make sure to have tons of power.
Yeah.
And a good ventilation or two. And
those all come later. Those are kind of like things you figure out you need later. It's just like, oh, dust collectors really do work. This is just a dust collector that's ceiling mounted, and it takes dust is everywhere.
Do you think there's like one thing to build that would be like, do this, get good at doing this?
A box. It sounds crazy, but a simple, rectangular or square box
with a lid.
You can make it with a lid or without a lid.
Okay.
If you can make a square box, it sounds easy, but it's really a whole lot harder than it sounds to get it where it doesn't wobble on the corners.
Yeah.
How do you hold it while you're nailing it together? You learn a whole lot just building a simple box.
Okay. All right. That's it.
All right.
Thank you.